Welcome everyone to our General Food Safety Annual Refresher. We hope this will be a quick review for most of you. Today, we're going to go over these topics: hand hygiene, disposable glove use, high-risk food products, timeline for safe storage of food. We're also going to go over temperature guidelines for food safety, suspected foodborne illness, food safety and food quality concerns, and a new procedure for washing fresh produce. Hand hygiene means washing hands with soap and water or using alcohol-based hand rubs. There are specific ways to hand wash and use alcohol-based hand rubs. In restricted dress area, hand washing needs to happen often. So what is the proper way to hand wash? First, roll up long sleeves and push up any wrist accessories. Then, wet hands with warm water. Apply enough soap to cover surfaces of the hands. Next, vigorously rub soap over palms, back of hands, and wrists. Include spaces between fingers, fingertips, and thumbs. Procedure should take 15 to 30 seconds. Rinse under warm water. Pat hands dry with disposable towel. Turn your tap off with disposable towel. Periodically apply AHS provided hand lotion for skin integrity. So when should we hand wash in food services? You should hand wash when entering a restricted dress area such as the kitchen, servery, tray line, or dish room. Before handling food, handling a new type of food, and putting on gloves. After removing gloves, touching dirty surfaces, cleaning or sanitizing, and after breaks, coughing, sneezing, or blowing your nose and touching blood or body fluids. In patient care areas such as patient rooms, hand hygiene needs to happen before and after every patient, such as delivering and picking up trays. Alcohol-based hand rubs should be used unless hands look or feel dirty and needs hand washing. Let's now watch a video on hand hygiene together.
Welcome to our training video on hand hygiene during meal delivery and pickup, presented by Nutrition and Food Services of Alberta Health Services. So, why are we training you on hand hygiene? Because it is the most important step to ensure patient safety and your safety. There are 4 moments when you need to perform hand hygiene. Number 1, before contact with a patient or anything in the room. Number 2, before a clean procedure such as handling food. Number 3, after handling blood or body fluids. Number 4, after contact with a patient or anything in their room. When delivering trays, do not wear gloves unless required by the isolation sign. Note that disposable gloves do not replace hand hygiene. Before you enter the first room on every unit, perform hand hygiene. Use alcohol-based hand rub or wash your hands with soap and water. Announce your presence so patients know you are there. Greet the patient. Make sure you are giving the correct tray to the correct patient. Ask if the patient needs help, such as opening packages. But if the bed needs to be adjusted, ask nursing to do it. As you leave every patient's bedside, perform hand hygiene. Use alcohol-based hand rub or wash your hands with soap and water. Repeat this process with every patient. Remember, if you contaminate your hands before touching the next tray, such as sneezing, perform hand hygiene. Use alcohol-based hand rub or wash your hands with soap and water. If your hands become visibly soiled, wash your hands with soap and water. If there is a second patient in the room, perform proper hand hygiene between patients as if the second patient was in a separate room. Remember, do not wear gloves unless required by the isolation sign. Note that disposable gloves do not replace hand hygiene. You should always do hand hygiene before and after using gloves. If gloves are required in meal delivery, always perform hand hygiene before wearing gloves. Announce your presence so patients know you are there. Greet the patient. Make sure you are giving the correct tray to the correct patient. Ask if the patient needs help, such as opening packages. Always do hand hygiene after using gloves. When picking up trays, do not wear gloves unless required by the isolation sign. Note that disposable gloves do not replace hand hygiene. Before you arrive at every patient's bedside, perform hand hygiene. Use alcohol-based rub or wash your hands. Remember, if you contaminate your hands again before reaching the patient's bedside, such as sneezing, you need to perform hand hygiene again. Use alcohol-based hand rub or wash your hands with soap and water. If your hands become visibly soiled, wash your hands with soap and water. Announce your presence so patients know you are there. Greet the patient. Ask patients if they enjoyed their meal. Remove any patient items such as medications, false teeth, or eyeglasses left on the tray. If they are finished with their tray, remove it. If not, leave it for late tray pickup. Repeat this process with every patient. As you leave the last room on every unit, perform hand hygiene. Use alcohol-based rub or wash your hands with soap and water. Remember, do not wear gloves unless required by the isolation sign. Note that disposable gloves do not replace hand hygiene. You should always do hand hygiene before and after using gloves. If there are body fluids on the tray, ask nursing to remove it. If there are any needles on the tray, ask nursing to remove it. Those are the procedures for proper hand hygiene when interacting with patients. Proper hand hygiene is the most important step to ensure patient safety and your safety. Remember, you'll touch many lives today.
In dining rooms, hand hygiene is not needed before and after serving every patient or resident. Hand hygiene is needed if patient contact or contamination occurs. Perform hand hygiene if you touch the patient, their chair, or parts of the table the patient has touched. Wash hands if you touch saliva or other body fluids. Wash hands if they look or feel dirty. You should be able to locate the alcohol-based hand rub dispensers and hand wash sinks in your dining rooms. So how do we use alcohol-based hand rubs, which are typically available on the units? First, roll up long sleeves and push up wrist accessories. Apply a palmful of AHS provided alcohol-based hand rubs to your hands. Rub all the surfaces of your hands and wrists, include palms, fingers, fingertips, and thumbs. Rub until they're completely dry. Remember to periodically apply AHS provided hand lotion for skin integrity. Disposable gloves do not replace proper hand hygiene. Disposable gloves have many microscopic holes that we cannot see with our naked eyes. Therefore, microbes and debris can contaminate your hands even when you're wearing gloves. If you wear gloves, always do hand hygiene before putting them on and after removing them. So how do we use disposable gloves? Step 1, first we wash our hands. Step 2, put on new gloves. Step 3, complete the task. If it's worn for more than 1 hour, remove and discard gloves and repeat steps 1 and 2. Step 4, remove and discard gloves. And step 5, wash your hands again. So how do we change disposable gloves? Step 1, we remove and discard gloves. Step 2, wash our hands. Step 3, put on new gloves. Finally, always remember to remove gloves and wash hands when leaving the restricted dress area. In restricted areas, ready-to-eat foods must not be handled with bare hands. If worn, gloves need to be changed often. Use utensils whenever possible, and use disposable gloves to handle ready-to-eat foods only if utensils or other barriers will not work. So when should we wear disposable gloves in restricted dress areas? To cover cuts, sores, rashes, or bandages. To handle and prepare unpackaged ready-to-eat foods when you can't use utensils. When required as a personal protective equipment, and if directed by your supervisor. So when should we change disposable gloves? after personal body functions such as coughing or sneezing, before handling a new type of food, before cleaning or sanitizing, after touching a dirty surface, after touching blood or body fluids, if gloves are ripped or damaged, if gloves are worn for 1 hour. As always, please remember to remove gloves and wash hands when leaving the restricted dress area. In patient care areas, do not wear disposable gloves to deliver or pick up trays unless needed as a personal protective equipment or items may be contaminated. Only wear gloves when required. Look for additional isolation precaution signs and known hazard medication signs, which are new as of January 2018, outside of patient rooms. The slideshow shows some examples of these signs. In dining rooms, clean bare hands may briefly handle ready-to-eat foods. Only wear gloves when required. Use utensils or other barriers whenever possible. Try to make sure there are enough utensils to handle each different food item being served. Disposable gloves may be worn for cleaning after meal service, if needed, as a personal protective equipment or handling items that may be contaminated. If you are wearing disposable gloves during service to the dining rooms, please wear them as close to surface as possible. Please do not wear them to open doors or push carts, as these actions may contaminate the food. High-risk food products can make a patient or customer really sick, such as raw fish or soft-cooked eggs. Therefore, it is important that we order alternative foods that can be used in place of high-risk foods. The Provincial Menu Master Order Guide, also known as the MOG, only has items confirmed to be safe. Provincial menu recipes are developed with ingredients and instructions to ensure safety. Patient food service only order foods that are listed in the MOG. For retail food service, only order foods that your supervisor has checked and approved. Follow all recipes exactly as written, such as cook and chill Black Forest ham before making into a sandwich. Here is a sample of a ham sandwich recipe that we should follow to minimize food safety risks. All foods must be used on or before the best before date and or used by date. Food items must be thrown out after these dates or earlier if signs of spoilage or mishandling are noticed. Before using the food item, always check for the best before date, the use by date, and signs of spoilage or mishandling, such as poor color, texture, smell, etc. Any food that has changed from its original form, such as being thawed, opened, cut, or cooked, must be labeled with a use by date. This includes leftover, opened, prepared, cooked food items that have not left the main nutrition food service preparation or kitchen area. A binder containing the maximum storage time will be found in the staff office. Leftover, opened, prepared, cooked food items from tray assembly, serveries, dining rooms, or catering can be used in the same meal period in another area, such as using patient food service leftovers in retail food service. Do not save for another meal. Discard the food. Prepare food items as close as possible to service, ideally the same day. Do not plan for leftovers, and do not purposely make more than what is needed for daily service. Only send what is needed to the tray assembly, serveries, dining rooms, and catering events. Here is a sample of maximum thawed storage time for frozen food items. Food items need to be kept at the correct temperature during all stages of food handling. Temperatures of storage areas, refrigerator, freezers, and food need to be checked often and recorded accurately. Use the correct temperature measuring device for the task, such as probe thermometer. Record temperatures on the document provided by your supervisor. Save completed documents for 3 months. Ensure temperatures are within the correct range. If not, notify your supervisor. The takeaway message from this poster is that the danger zone is between 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. Try to keep potentially hazardous foods such as meats, eggs, dairy products, and hot foods out of the danger zone as much as possible and for no more than 2 hours. Always ensure that foods that are cold are kept at or below 4 degrees Celsius and frozen foods at or below negative 18 degrees Celsius. Try to keep hot foods hot at or above 60 degrees Celsius with proper hot holding equipment. We should cook most foods to a minimum internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. Remember to reheat foods to 74 degrees Celsius in 2 hours or less. In terms of dishwashing, we need to sanitize dishes with hot water in a sink at 77 degrees Celsius for 2 minutes. Then we need to sanitize dishes with hot water in a dishwashing machine at 82 degrees Celsius for 10 seconds. Suspected foodborne illnesses is when we believe that a patient or customer may have become sick from a food served by Nutrition Food Services. Staff to become aware of suspected foodborne illness reported by a patient, patient's friend, family, Alberta Health Service staff member, or other's customer must report it to their supervisor who decides on appropriate follow-up. Do not serve foods that may be unsafe, such as having foreign objects, mold, bacteria, or leaking. Do not serve poor quality foods that are too thick or thin, too big or small, or have poor color. Before using the food item, please examine for foreign objects, mold, spoilage, leaky, unsanitary packaging, etc. If you become aware of a food safety or food quality concern, you must report it to your supervisor who decides on appropriate follow-up. So why do we need to wash all fresh produce? Fresh produce may contain a lot of microorganisms, dirt, and may lead to food poisoning. Many of the acute and long-term care patients have weakened immunity and may be at a higher risk for becoming sick. Therefore, washing fresh produce can lower the risk of foodborne illnesses. Always remember to wash all fresh produce, except for packaged, pre-washed produce that does not need to be washed. Use a clean and sanitized produce brush when required, which we'll go over on the next slide. Wash produce on the same day as service whenever possible and no more than 1 day before service. So how do we wash fresh produce? First, wash your hands. Then, wash the produce under fresh, cool running water. A clean and sanitized colander can be used to hold produce under running water. Wash until any visible dirt and debris have been removed. Use the clean and sanitized brush to scrub firm produce. See the chart on the poster above. Which of the produce should be scrubbed with a brush and which should not? Firmer fruits such as citrus, melon, and pineapple should be washed with a brush. Similarly, firmer vegetables such as root vegetables, field cucumbers, and squash should be washed with a brush. In contrast, fruits that are so small, smooth, soft should not be washed with a scrub. Also, leafy, floral, stem, and smooth or soft vegetables should not be washed with a scrub. If needed, dry with a paper towel or a salad spinner. Store washed produce separate from unwashed produce. And finally, wash your hands again. Let's now watch a video on how to wash fresh produce together.
Hello and welcome to our training video on washing fresh produce, what to wash and how to wash it. My name is Lori Keenan and I'm an advisor with NFLES, Education, Training and Development. I am pleased to be joined today by Alex Goebel, who is a dietetic intern and will be assisting me with this video presentation. This video was developed to help staff understand how to comply with the new NFS standard on washing fresh produce. Okay, let's get started. So Alex, can you explain what produce is and why it's important that we wash it properly?
Sure, Lori. Produce is raw fruits and vegetables. In healthcare, we wash produce because it can carry bacteria that can cause foodborne illness, commonly known as food poisoning. And it's important to remember that patients who are sick are at a higher risk of food poisoning because their immune systems are weaker. Additionally, it is important to wash produce to remove dirt because everyone expects their food to be clean. No one wants to see dirt, bugs, or other contaminants.
That's really good information, Alex, and something to think about even at home. So question, do we need to wash all fruits and vegetables or only the ones that look dirty?
That's a really good question, Lori. All fresh produce needs to be washed, and this needs to be done before they're cut, peeled, combined with other ingredients, cooked, or served to patients. For example, produce with edible skin, such as apples, cucumbers, grapes, and strawberries, need to be washed before food service staff cut or serve them. If we don't do this, the bacteria that may be present on the skin of produce will be passed on to our customers and patients.
Okay, so here may be a dumb question. I understand that we want to wash all fresh fruits and vegetables to prevent patients and customers from getting sick, but what if they're only eating the inside of the fruit or vegetable? Do we still need to wash them?
There's no such thing as dumb questions, Lori. Yes, we need to wash produce with skins that won't be eaten, such as melons that are cut before service and bananas that can be served whole. Think about when you or the patient or customer goes to cut or peel these. The bacteria or other contamination that may be present on the skin can spread to the inside when the item is cut or peeled. So the answer is definitely yes. Wash all vegetables and fruits, even if the skin won't be eaten.
That's good to know. All right, since you said there are no dumb questions, are there any rules about serving fresh produce? Like, can I wash apples on Monday, put them in the fridge, and serve them on Friday?
No, ideally produce should be washed the same day as service. So if you are serving apples on Friday, it is best to wash the apples on Friday. Produce should be washed no more than 1 day in advance of service. So the earliest you could wash the apples is Thursday.
Okay, so now that I know what to wash, I'm ready to learn how to properly wash produce. I'm sure I've been doing it wrong, but no judgment, right?
Don't worry, Lori, it's easy. I like to separate the produce into 2 categories, the ones that need to be scrubbed with a brush and the ones that don't.
Great idea. I'd like to know about scrub brushes. Can I use any old brush?
No, at work we must use a brush that is provided by NFS. Your supervisor or manager will provide the brushes you need. Brushes must be cleaned and sanitized before each use, including between different types of produce. Ensure you know the process for cleaning and sanitizing produce brushes at your site. Each site should have enough brushes for their production needs.
Okay, a cleaned and sanitized brush it is.
Okay, let's head over to the sink. Step 1 is to wash your hands at the hand washing sink, following the proper hand washing procedures. Also make sure that you have a cleaned and sanitized produce brush ready to go. Let's start with produce that needs to be scrubbed with a brush. These include citrus fruits, melons, pineapples, root vegetables, and other firm vegetables such as field cucumbers. Okay, let's start with a lemon.
Ha ha, very funny, Alex, throwing in a plastic lemon to see if I was paying attention.
Well, you can't blame a girl for trying. Okay, so here's an orange, which is a common citrus fruit. Other citrus fruits include lemons, real ones of course, limes, and mandarins. Take the orange and wash it under cool running water until any visible dirt or debris have been washed off. Use the brush to help remove any dirt or bacteria. If needed, a clean and sanitized colander or insert can be used to hold the washed oranges. It's important to remember, do not submerge or soak the produce. You do not need to use commercial soaps or washes. For melons such as cantaloupe, wash under cool running water until any visible dirt or debris have been washed off. Then, use the brush to scrub the surface of the melon. This helps to remove any dirt or bacteria that could get into the melon when slicing it. Other melons include honeydew and watermelon. Similarly, give pineapples a good scrub with the brush. Also, make sure to give root vegetables, like potatoes, a really good scrub to remove all the visible dirt and debris.
Oh, that's one dirty potato.
It sure is. Other root vegetables include carrots, radishes, and turnips. Now, when washing firm vegetables such as field cucumbers or squash, make sure not to puncture them because this would allow bacteria to get in. Another thing to be aware of is that we don't have to dry produce unless the quality of the food will be affected by being wet. Next, be sure to store the washed produce separately from the unwashed produce. Let me show you how I do this in the refrigerator. This is a box of unwashed oranges, and separate from it, we have the container of washed oranges. And lastly, don't forget to wash your hands.
Okay, let me see if I have this right. The 5 steps to washing produce are: number 1, wash my hands. Number 2, wash the produce under cool running water, scrubbing if needed, remember that potato, until any visible dirt and debris are gone. Number 3, dry only if needed. Number 4, store the washed produce separately from the unwashed produce. And number 5, wash my hands again.
You got it, Lori.
So Alex, I've been thinking, what about foods that we can't scrub with a brush, like berries or broccoli?
That's a fantastic question, Lori. There are quite a few foods that we don't need to scrub with a brush. They include small, soft and smooth fruits, as well as leafy, floral, stem, and smooth or soft vegetables. Okay, let's do another demonstration. Again, the first step is to wash our hands. Next, run the produce under cool running water until any visible dirt and debris are gone. For small fruits, such as grapes, a clean and sanitized colander can be used. Other small fruits include cherries and berries. Similarly, large amounts of smooth fruit, such as apples, can be placed in a cleaned and sanitized colander or insert with holes. This can make for easier washing and ensure the produce is never placed directly in the sink. A pear is another example of a smooth fruit. Now, soft fruit such as bananas, kiwis, peaches, plums, and mangoes are unlikely to have any visible dirt. As a result, quickly rinsing under cool running water is all that's needed. To wash leafy vegetables such as lettuce, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, spinach, and kale, the best way would be to cut the stem off and rinse the leaves under running water. Make sure to really get in between the leaves to remove any dirt or bugs that could be hiding in there. A cleaned and sanitized colander or insert with holes can be used to hold the leaves. To wash floral vegetables such as broccoli, cauliflower, and artichokes, rinse under running water until all visible dirt and debris have been removed. Stemmed vegetables such as celery, asparagus, and fennel can be washed in the same way. Stalks can be pulled apart and rinsed individually. You can even rub stubborn dirt off with your finger. To wash smooth or soft vegetables such as tomatoes, avocados, bell peppers, and English cucumbers, follow the same process.
Alex, what if produce needs to be dried?
If the produce needs to be dried, you can use a clean paper towel. If leafy greens are too wet, a salad spinner can be used.
Great points, Alex. Next, I'm going to store the washed produce separate from the unwashed produce. And lastly, I cannot forget to wash my hands. So question, what about pre-washed bagged produce? Do they need to be washed before using them?
No, if produce is pre-washed, it does not need to be washed again. The produce can be used right away for food preparation or service. Look for the words washed, pre-washed, triple washed, etc. on the label. Check with your supervisor or manager if you are unsure if a vegetable or fruit is pre-washed.
I don't know about you, but I sure learned a lot today. Thank you everyone for joining Alex and I. We hope that after watching this video, you feel confident in washing all of your produce and know which ones to scrub and not scrub.
Thanks for watching, and may all your produce be clean.
If you have any questions, talk to your supervisor or manager. And don't forget to follow the new Washing Fresh Produce poster.
Pop quiz! It's time to tap into what you have learned today. Question 1. When should you wash your hands? A. When entering a restricted dress area. B. Before handling food. C. After removing gloves. D. Before putting on gloves. And E. All of the above. The answer is all of the above. Question 2. When should you use disposable gloves in the restricted dress area? A. when handling unpackaged, ready-to-eat foods. B, when required as a personal protective equipment. C, when covering cuts, sores, rashes, or bandages. D, when directed by your supervisor. Or E, all of the above. The answer is all of the above. Question 3. What is the temperature danger zone? A, minus 18 to 55 degrees Celsius. B, 14 to 65 degrees Celsius. C, 4 to 60 degrees Celsius. D, 20 to 74 degrees Celsius. E, I don't know. The answer is C, 4 to 60 degrees Celsius. Question 4. Which of the fresh produce below should be scrubbed with a brush? A, banana. B, orange. C, English cucumber. D, avocado. E, all of the above. The answer is B, orange. Thanks everyone for your time. If you have any questions, please contact your Nutrition Food Services supervisor.